All right, I'm here with Landon Sheets to do another interview. Landon, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, Landon Sheets. I helped start and build Concord Medical Group. It's a medical staffing company. We started specializing in rural emergency physician coverage and have over the last 15 years built into all different specialties, ancillary services, nursing, different specialties. Um, have worked most of the kind of roles in that company over those 15 years. Was most recently chief operating officer. And in the last probably 6 or 7 months have backed out of leadership. And we've kind of put in place or kind of promoted internally some leaders to run and kind of hand off the reins to. And so still on a board position with the company and some oversight and strategic decision making, but operationally have backed out. But spent a lot of years growing and building that team.
Yeah, that's awesome. These would be great questions for you since you've kind of seen it at all levels. Start at the bottom, and, been down in the muck working through all the operational stuff. So,
Right. Yep.
all right, what would you tell your younger self about leadership and management?
Man, there's a lot of things that I would tell my younger self about leadership and management. I'd like to think that I have matured some, but I'm sure I'll look back and want to tell this younger self things at some point. But I think that the first thing that comes to my mind is don't be afraid of failure. Um, I look back on my younger self as a leader, and I was in a position of leadership with a small team at a young age. And I think I always had this kind of timidity, kind of a sense of I don't want to mess up or say the wrong thing. And I for sure don't want to look like I don't know what I'm talking about or don't know what I'm doing or don't know the right answer.
Yeah.
And so rather than acting, rather than just taking a step, rather than being confident and being really ready to admit when I blew it or messed it up, I just didn't act sometimes.
Mm.
Just tried to save face by not moving. And I think as a leader, that can be a really detrimental thing to do. To just be someone who's not willing to take initiative, to not willing to make a move because you're afraid of failing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of a lot of things I would tell my younger self.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. This might kind of segue nicely, but what's a piece of advice you would give a new leader?
Um, I would say kind of along the same lines. Um, don't be afraid of failure, and then I think along with that, um, be be willing to learn, have a learner mentality. I think there's kind of two ways that you can approach ideas, concepts, even leadership, either a knower or a learner. And I think often young leaders struggle with I want to know the right answer rather than I there's always more that I can learn, and I can learn from everyone, including the people that I'm leading. And
Hmm.
I think in my career, I learned probably more from the people that I was leading, that I was supposed to be directing. There's nothing wrong with that. They're the ones who are actually often in the trenches, and to not use them as resources and learn from them is a huge mistake. So I think I would tell a young leader like be a learner from everyone that you can get information from, learn stuff from. It makes you look smarter to have a learner mentality, not dumber. It
Yeah,
makes you look really dumb when you feel like you should always have the right answer and you're never curious.
yeah,
Curiosity looks really smart, and not that looking smart is the point, but like being curious is just and having a I'd like to learn more because I certainly don't know it all attitude is just a good trait to have, and it's going to serve you better in the long run and build credibility with the people that you're leading.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it makes
Mm,
them follow you all that much
yeah,
more. Yeah.
100%.
Okay. This question is kind of in the same direction, so you can take it in the same direction, or you can take it a different direction if you want. But what do you know now that you wished you knew earlier in your career?
Um, I don't know that I would say I know it now, but one thing that I have learned and that I am trying to apply now that I certainly wish that I would have applied earlier in my career is um, that as a leader, humility is is probably one of the most important ingredients.
Mm,
Um, I can look back and again, this all kind of bleeds together. I can look back and see so many times when I wasn't humble, when I was arrogant, when I cared more about how people saw me than I did about like how can I actually serve this person that I'm leading or serve this company that I'm working with, serve these clients that I'm trying to care for. It was much more about saving face. It was much more about how am I being perceived, and is much more pride rather than humility. And I think um, I've learned that humility is always it's always going to serve your client more. It's always going to serve your team more. It's going to ultimately end up with a better result. Pride looks terrible, and ultimately is just not going to like end up with
yeah,
a good result.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So you're already kind of touching on this next question, mentioning some of the kind of defining leadership behaviors, but what
Mm-hmm.
behaviors do you think kind of are most defining what makes a great leader?
Yeah, I would say humility. I think if I was going to say what behaviors make you a great leader, I would say being the type of person that always takes responsibility when things don't go well, and I think along with that, the type of person who would who's a calm in a sense of like a calming present and a confident presence when things are going really bad.
Yeah,
When everything's in challenging times, the person who's a calm in a storm rather than the person yelling the loudest and panic.
yeah,
I think those two things would be kind of defining characteristics of a good leader.
yeah, yeah, like that. Um, what's the biggest lesson you've learned or anything that you would do over? Why?
Mm, I think I would focus more on the people and less on trying to look like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah,
Um, I think I look back on a lot of my years as a leader, and I kind of like missed. I missed the importance of just like the team I was leading and developing relationships with them, and caring about who they were as people and their kids. And um, I've learned that you get a lot more out of the people that you're leading when you actually care for them, when they
yeah,
know that they respect you and I know you respect them.
hmm,
And so yeah, I think I missed a lot of opportunities just by not taking the time to go care for them and instead being focused on I wanted to think that I got the right, I'm asking for the right reports and I'm giving them the right directives and asking the right questions and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah. I can definitely resonate with that. It's so easy to just get sucked into the things you got to get done. I feel like there's
Yeah,
not time to really connect with people, but it's
absolutely,
well. In the other
absolutely.
direction, what's something you're proud of and you want to replicate going forward?
Um, I mean, in terms of my leadership,
Yeah,
I would say I think that I mean, kind of in the same vein, I think that if you asked all the people that I worked with over the years, even some of the ones that we parted ways, I think that most of them would say that I did care for them, that I cared about them, that I might have been knucklehead, not knowing what I was doing, but I think that most of them would have said I did care about them, and that I, for the most part, was honest and fair with them and represented like the values that Concord valued, which just being honest and fair and doing what we say we're going to do, and then just having a grit about us,
mhm,
just a toughness. I think that they would have said that I embodied those things most
mhm.
of the time. So I think just over as a big picture with a bunch of knucklehead moves along the way and moments, but I think as a big picture, um, they would say, yeah, he was a knucklehead, but he mostly embodied those values.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so how do you achieve a work-life balance? And do you have any tips for the rest of us?
Well, it's funny. I'll give you a quick story. So I mean, as you know, I'm at the last like 6 months, I have basically, you know, quit my job. So I was watching a TED talk the other day, and the guy was talking about how he spent a long time trying to figure out how to achieve work-life balance, and then ended up like taking a year-long break from his job to figure it out. And he was like, "Oh, this is easy. Like I figured it out. Like the way you achieve work-life balance is stop working." Uh, said it tongue in cheek, obviously, but that's one way to do it. No, I actually don't think that's a way to do it because I think we're created to work. I think yeah, no person is in a good spot when they're not working passionately on something. I think achieving a work life balance is really about just knowing who you are and what your personal mission is. My personal mission is not something that is specific to work, to my vocation,
Mhm.
whatever that. When I was COO at Concord, it wasn't, and whatever's next, it also won't be. And so my personal mission, it has to do with who I am, who God made me to be, as like who how He's gifted me, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as a mentor, as a disciple, all of those things, like mostly as a follower of Christ. And so I think in light of like, if we start with an understanding of your personal mission and like who God made you to be, it may not always play out this way, but you can actually have a clear vision of what are the priorities.
Mhm.
And in every decision, if I'm choosing to stay at the office versus go home, well, is that in line with these things that are the most important of who I am? And if it's not, you don't make that decision. And that, again, it's not that it always plays out perfectly, but I think achieving a work life balance is about having a clear understanding of what is most important. And
Yeah.
if your family is ranking up there above, or at least at where your vocation and professional excellence, then it is going to win out, and you're going to make the decision. I need to go to the kids ball game because it is a priority, and you've before the decision was in front of you, you've already determined part of who I am is I'm a present dad. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go to that game because it actually outranks be a standout employee or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think just know, like, having a predetermined idea of who you are and what your values are.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That makes a lot of sense. Um, okay. So you probably hired lots of people in your role as COO. So when you're looking at prospective employee, what are some key attributes that you look for, and how are you able to assess how strong those attributes are,
Mm-hmm.
throughout that interview
Mm-hmm.
application process?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say the key attributes that I'm looking for are like the alignment with our values at Concord, and then just a general sense of coachability, teachability.
Yeah.
We're we're probably a lot less, or we were probably when I was hiring, a lot less focused on your resume. Experience is great, but we hired a lot of people who had tons of industry experience that fizzled out in a matter of months. Meanwhile, we hired some other folks that had no industry experience, no healthcare experience whatsoever, and they were the type of person that was self-motivated, hard worker, and like super coachable, and like they're still with us and crushing. And
Yeah.
so I would say, for sure, I will take teachability and coachability and self-motivated over industry experience or any sort of resume.
Hmm.
Um, and then when we were hiring, I always said that um, our mentality was, rather than having a hold your hand, this is exactly what it's all going to look like and what your description is going to be. We had more of a mentality of hire the right person, throw them in the ocean of all of the Concord is, and see if they climb up on a rock. And we're
Yeah.
looking for someone that's not just going to be like, I'm out here treading water until someone tells me what to do. We're
Uh,
looking for someone who's going to say, okay, there's a rock. I can do that. I'm going to climb up on that rock and I'm going to take ownership of that.
yeah.
And so, probably not conventional, but that's what we look for. That's what I looked for when I hired.
Landon, thanks so much for making some time for us and for imparting some wisdom. Appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely, man. Good. For sure. Happy to do it.